Summary of the poem War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy. Carol Ann Duffy's War Photographer reflects on the life and struggles of a photographer who captures scenes of war and suffering. The poem begins in the darkroom, where the photographer is finally alone, away from the chaos he has documented. The spools of suffering suggest rolls of film filled with horrifying images of pain and death. The red light of the darkroom lamp creates a solemn atmosphere, likened to a church, as though he were a priest performing a sacred duty. This comparison elevates his work into something ritualistic and moral, but it also underlines the loneliness and burden of his role. The reference to places like Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh highlights the universality of suffering, and the line "all flesh is grass" reminds the reader of human mortality and fragility. The second stanza emphasizes his professional detachment during moments of crisis. While photographing war, his hands did not tremble then, showing his ability to stay composed. But now, in the safety of England, he trembles as the memories return. This contrast between war zones and peaceful rural England highlights the gulf between the photographer's traumatic experiences and the everyday lives of ordinary people. The natural landscape of England is calm and safe, unlike the war-torn fields where children run into landmines. This juxtaposition underscores how distant war feels to those who are not directly touched by it. As the photographs develop, something is happening. The blurred images slowly form into recognizable faces, described as a half-formed ghost. This suggests the haunting effect of war memories. The images are not just pictures but reminders of real lives lost. The photographer remembers a particular man's wife crying, and the way he needed silent approval to take such painful pictures. This moment shows the moral dilemma of his job. Documenting suffering is necessary to tell the truth, but it also feels intrusive, as if exploiting grief. The blood stained into foreign dust emphasizes both the violence of war and the idea that for the local people, such suffering becomes part of the land itself. The final stanza reflects on how the photographs are consumed. Out of 100 agonies, only 5 or 6 are chosen for publication, reducing immense suffering to a few selected images. Readers glance at them in the Sunday paper, their eyes briefly pricking with tears before returning to their comfortable routines of bath and pre-lunch beers. This moment critiques the superficial engagement of the public, who feel momentary sympathy but do not act. Meanwhile, the photographer returns to war zones, earning his living in places where people suffer deeply, while those at home remain detached and indifferent. Structurally, the poem is composed of 4 equal stanzas of 6 lines each, written in a controlled and ordered manner that mirrors the photographer's attempt to bring order to chaos. The rhyme scheme is irregular but often follows a loose ABBCDD or similar pattern, reflecting both discipline and disruption, echoing the balance between professional duty and emotional turmoil. The meter is not strictly regular, but it leans towards iambic rhythms, giving it a steady, measured pace. This controlled rhythm contrasts with the violent and chaotic subject matter, perhaps symbolizing the photographer's attempt to impose composure on overwhelming experiences. The central theme of the poem is the tension between the reality of war and the detachment of those who are safe from it. It explores the loneliness of the war photographer, the ethical complexity of documenting suffering, and society's tendency to consume tragedy as fleeting spectacle. It highlights the difference between lived pain and secondhand awareness, ultimately showing the futility and frustration of trying to make people care through images. The poem's power lies in its quiet, reflective tone, its careful structure, and its ability to make the reader question their own response to the suffering of others.
Line-by-line explanation of the poem War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy.
Line 1. In his dark room he is finally alone. The poem begins with the photographer in his dark room, the private place where he develops his photographs. The word finally suggests relief that he has escaped the chaos of war and the constant presence of death. At the same time, it also suggests isolation. He is alone with his memories and the images of suffering. Line 2. With spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. The rolls of film are described as spools of suffering, showing that each one contains images of human pain. The phrase ordered rows contrasts the chaos of war with the calm order of the darkroom, but it also suggests how suffering has been reduced to something neat and controllable in this environment. Line 3. The only light is red and softly glows. The darkroom's safety light is red, casting a gentle glow. This detail sets the quiet, almost sacred mood of the room. At the same time, the color red symbolizes blood, danger, and violence, reminding the reader of the war scenes he has captured. Line 4. As though this were a church and he. The darkroom is compared to a church, turning the act of developing photographs into a ritual. This simile suggests that what he does has a sacred, moral significance. Line 5. A priest preparing to intone a Massachusetts. The photographer is likened to a priest preparing for a religious service. This elevates his work to the level of a sacred duty, almost as if he is delivering truth and bearing witness on behalf of those who suffered. Line 6. Belfast. Beirut. Phnom Penh. All flesh is grass. The short place names stand starkly, each representing violent conflict in different parts of the world. The biblical phrase, all flesh is grass, from Isaiah 40 verse 6, means human life is fragile, short-lived, and destined to wither. The line suggests that death is everywhere and unavoidable. Line 7. He has a job to do. Solutions slop in trays. The tone shifts back to the practical task of developing photos. Solution slop refers to the chemical solutions used in the trays, but the wordplay hints at the false idea that there are solutions to war. The messy sound of slop undercuts the order described earlier. Line 8. Beneath his hands, which did not tremble then. In war zones, the photographer's hands were steady. He was able to stay calm under pressure, detached enough to do his work in moments of crisis. Line 9. Though seem to now. Rural England. Home again. Now, in the safety of England, his hands tremble. This suggests delayed trauma. He can only feel the weight of what he has witnessed when he is back home. The phrase rural England highlights the contrast between the safety of home and the violence abroad. Line 10. To ordinary pain which simple weather can dispel. In England, pain is minor and fleeting, like bad weather that soon passes. This emphasizes the contrast between the everyday troubles of ordinary people and the intense suffering of those caught in war. Line 11. To fields which don't explode beneath the feet. English fields are peaceful, whereas fields in war zones are littered with mines and bombs. The imagery highlights the gulf between the two worlds. Line 12. Of running children in a nightmare heat. The reference to running children brings to mind famous war photographs of burned or injured children. The nightmare heat suggests bombs, fire, and unbearable suffering. Line 13. Something is happening. A stranger's features. As the photograph develops, an image slowly appears. The suspense in something is happening mirrors the ghostly process of faces emerging in the developing liquid. Line 14. Faintly start to twist before his eyes. The image is distorted as it forms, appearing twisted and unclear. This twisting also suggests the agony and suffering of the subject. Line 15. A half-formed ghost. He remembers the cries. The face looks ghost-like, reminding him of the dead. The use of ghost suggests haunting memories. He recalls the sound of the victim's wife crying. Line 16. Of this man's wife, how he sought approval. He remembers the grief of the wife, and how, silently, he needed her permission to take the photograph. This shows the moral conflict he faces in his work. Line 17. Without words to do what someone must. Even though it was painful, he had a duty to record the suffering. The phrase someone must highlights the importance of documenting war, but also the heavy burden it places on him. Line 18. And how the blood stained into foreign dust. The blood of the dead man became part of the land itself. The phrase foreign dust shows the detachment of distance, but also emphasizes how suffering is absorbed into war-torn places, often unnoticed by the wider world. Line 19. 100 agonies in black and white. The photographs capture countless moments of pain and horror. Black and white refers to the photos but also symbolizes the starkness of death and suffering. Line 20, from which his editor will pick out 5 or 6. Out of the many agonies recorded, only a handful will be chosen for publication. This shows how suffering is filtered and reduced for public consumption. Line 21, for Sunday's supplement. The reader's eyeballs prick. The chosen images will appear in the Sunday newspaper. Readers will look at them briefly, their eyes prickling with momentary tears. Line 22, with tears between the bath and pre-lunch beers. The sympathy of the readers is short-lived. They glance at the images while relaxing at home, surrounded by comfort, and quickly move on to their everyday pleasures. Line 23, from the aeroplane he stares impassively at where. The photographer returns to another war zone. Impassively shows his emotional numbness, he has seen too much suffering to react anymore. Line 24, he earns his living and they do not care. The final line emphasizes the bleak truth, the photographer earns his living from capturing human suffering, but those at home remain largely indifferent. It is a powerful statement about society's apathy towards the realities of war.
About the poet. Carol Ann Duffy was born on December 23, 1955 in Glasgow, Scotland. She grew up in Stafford, England, where she developed a love for reading and writing poetry at a young age. Duffy studied philosophy at the University of Liverpool and soon gained recognition for her sharp, accessible, and emotionally powerful poetry. Her work often explores themes of love, identity, memory, oppression, and the voice of the marginalized. She is known for giving a voice to overlooked or silenced individuals, often writing in dramatic monologues that reveal hidden emotions and perspectives. In 2009, she made history by becoming the first woman, the first Scot, and the first openly gay poet to be appointed Poet Laureate of the United Kingdom, a position she held until 2019. Duffy's poems are celebrated for their blend of simplicity and depth, making them widely studied in schools while also admired in the literary world.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.